Theodore, in my view, is a no-nonsense man. And I think that philosophy serves him whether he's in the Parliament, advocating for a client, managing at home, or seeking the interests of the public.
He was always approachable. And you meet him anywhere at all, you could get advice from Teddy.
His contribution to the law, his contribution to the politics, his contribution to the building of our country, I think it is phenomenal. And he's one of the unsung heroes of our time.
A friend to the small man, an advocate for the less fortunate, a champion of law and order, Theodore Guerra, SC, stands tall as a son of the soil in all its dimensions.
He has stood out over the years, mainly as a criminal lawyer, but he always had a mixed practice. He did criminal law and he did civil law as well, as he continues to do, both criminal law and civil law. And this year, 2010, is his 50th anniversary at the bar. And it's a remarkable achievement by a remarkable man, an outstanding individual with a passion not only for the law, but a kind of caring and a kind of concern, very deep concern for the plight of the underdog.
Guerra developed a close connection to the land from an early age.
I grew up between Mercer Street and Rich Plain, Diego Martin. My father was a gardener. My mother was a part-time housewife, market vendor, because she sold the produce which my father got from the garden. It was a beautiful life in Diego Martin because I remember the river running through Diego Martin. We were not blessed with swimming pools, but we had water holes in the river where we went and had our swimming and our baths.
Nurtured by a community and religious upbringing, he recalls.
I remember that my infant days, that there was an East Indian man called Muti, who every morning when he was on his way to sell his milk, gave me a cup of milk. And he is the bedrock on which I have grown up. Religion was important, being born into a Roman Catholic family, and church was imperative on Sunday morning. And growing up in the village of Diego Martin, the village took care of the children, and therefore the village demanded from the children respect. You could not pass an older person on the street without saying good morning or good afternoon, as the case may
be. He was encouraged to develop his skills in sports in his early life.
There's a Mr. Hilton St. Rose. Unfortunately, he's now deceased. But Mr. St. Rose, who played cricket in Diego Martin and was interested in running, took a particular interest in my education because he felt that I had it and he would push me to the limit. He used to take a special interest. He'd ride his bicycle and come to my home to give my parents reports. He encouraged me in my running. And whatever I am today, I owe it greatly to Hilton St. Rose.
Guerra developed especially as a sprinter.
Well, from Rich Plain, you had to walk to Cocorit. Now, it was a daily walk, and the boys who used to be doing it used to treat it as though it was a race, who to get the cocoa first. And as a consequence, it was not necessary for me to go and train in the afternoon. I got my training on my way to school. I remember that you had to get to cocoa, and you paid a penny on the trolley bus to get down to school.
After secondary school, Guerra joined his parents in farming.
Well, I was too young. I was 15 and a half when I got my Cambridge school, and I was too young to be employed. And according to the rules then, too old to go to school because you have already got your Cambridge school certificate. So I went back in the garden with my father, and I spent two and a half years in the garden with him. In addition to that, I used to go to the market with my mother to sell. You see where I live. This is the impact. I'm still in agriculture. I still remember the lessons my father taught me in planting. I know the moons when to plant, I know the type of seedlings to put down and so on, and I am proud of my education in agriculture because I wouldn't give it up not for all the tea in China.
Even then, he knew that he wanted to study law.
Well, I wanted to do law, and I wanted to get the avenue whereby I could appreciate what I had to do later on. And at 17 years, 11 months, I enlisted in the police service. On my 18th birthday, I was sworn in as a police officer. I would say that joining the police service, I was very fortunate. After passing out, I was very fortunate to be posted to Cedrus Police Station. There I met a sergeant called Arnold Duke, a Tobagonian, a man who believed and respected education. Under his wing, I embarked upon private study for my higher school certificate.
Intent on making it to London, he joined the government service to earn more.
I applied and got an acting second-class clerk position, and God blessed me then because I was sent to the post office, where at the time my salary was $84 per month. And I earned 3 times what my salary was by doing overtime. I worked 30 out of 24 hours. I handed my mother all my earnings, and she'd give me $6 or $8 to tide me over for the month. After about 3 years, she called me one day and told me, I have enough money for you to go to England. And upon telling me that, I made arrangements. I got my passage booked on the Colombi to travel to England, a trip which took 14 days at the time. Paid my tuition and embarked upon the journey that has me in my 50th year of practice now. When I got to England, I used to train at Ladywell Park with Chris Chataway, and I was chosen to run at a meet in London. And it was early August. And when I went and they told us to strip, and I took off my tracksuit, I pulled it back on immediately. It was too damn cold. And I got his permission to run in the tracksuit. He allowed me to. I won the race, but I lost my sprinting career from then on because it was too damn cool to run in England.
While attending Lincoln's Inn, Guerra worked part-time.
I also worked on British Railways as a booking clerk. I worked at the stations Lewisham and Hither Green. The staff of this assisted me very much in that in England, I woke up with a book, I went to bed with a book, I traveled with a book. At all times I was reading.
But it was not all work and no play.
Because of the training that my teacher has given me about cricket and so on, we formed a West Indian club called Ebony, and we played in the Greater Northern London League. We won the championship 2 years running. As a consequence, in my final year in London, in order to do my finals, I had to give up my employment with British Railways. And I played professional cricket on weekends, getting £2 10 shillings for a wicket and £5 for every 50 runs that you scored. And as a consequence, I was able to survive.
Soon, he had accomplished his lifelong dream.
I passed the bar exam in '59. And as I told you, I believe that being in England was being in jail. And the only way I could get out of jail was to pass the people exam. And I did my utmost best to do so. And in December '59, I passed the bar exam. I was called early in England in early January, and after tying up all my loose ends, I was back in Trinidad in February of 1960. I remember in those days, it is a question of acquiring knowledge and acquiring a practice. And therefore, I offered my services to the senior lawyers about the place. I went into chambers with E.P. Bruning, the person who presented my petition to the bar.
In those days, particularly in the 70s, when you had so many people caught up in the revolutionary mood, and they were being confronted by the police and they were being prosecuted and so on. Theodore Guerra was one of the lead counsel defending people who were charged by the police, and he had many, many remarkable successes.
I was engaged in the prosecution of the soldiers from mutiny and so on. As a consequence of the prosecuting in the mutiny trial, the second mutiny trial, on the day before I was to address the court-martial, at that time I lived at Pearl Gardens in Pity Valley, which is part of Diego Martin. I had just got home and was sitting in a recliner chair in my bedroom when some men burst into my house and shot me in my arm. They really did give me a shot in the arm, because after that my name became a household word, and I didn't have to be concerned about the advancement of my career.
Although he rose to prominence as an attorney, Guerra remained close to his roots.
I had a great connection with the steel band. And as you know, Port of Spain, and East Port of Spain particularly, is the mecca of the steel band. In addition to that, I became one of the organizers of sport in Diego Martin. In addition to that, when I moved to Santa Cruz in '76, I became an organizer of sport. I lived with the people. As you notice here, my gate is open. And I have been able to know what the needs of the people are.
Teddy was one of those guys who, although you held in high esteem, you could still call him, by his first name or anything. I said, Teddy, yeah, anywhere at all. Coming out the courthouse, on the football field or the community field, whatever it is, it was Teddy.
I would say that I represented the have-nots. And as a consequence of that, I had a full grounding in the needs and wants of these people. And it is because of this I was persuaded to get into the political arena.
He became a supporter of the ONR in 1981. Well, as we know, the ONR lost, never won, did not win any seats, but the ONR went on to play a pivotal role in bringing the opposition parties together under the banner of the National Alliance for Reconstruction. He was a key individual in that transition, and it was natural for a man, an outstanding personality like Theodore Guerra, to become a candidate in the elections.
I was living in Santa Cruz at the time, and therefore I set about forming party groups so that we would get the support. And I formed 35 party groups between Las Cuevas and Maracas St. Joseph for the NAR. And it was a given that I would have been the nominee for St. Anne's. However, at my screening, Mr. Robinson told me, George Chambers is the head of the PNM. We are challenging the corruption of the PNM. And as you know, Lincoln Myers did a fast on the steps of the Hall of Justice. And he would be the ideal candidate to contest against the head of the PNM. I accepted what Mr. Robinson had said. But however, he went on to say, I'm sending you in a constituency which is a difficult one. And therefore, I want to know if you would accept. I asked him which constituency, he said Port of Spain South. And he pointed out to me that Port of Spain South was the home of Eric Williams, then next the Chinese chopper, and so on. I said, all right. I said, you're sending me from one home to the next.
Guerra's activism in sport and culture gave him a natural advantage on the political turf.
I am part of the steel band movement. I lived with Pan for more than half of my life. Most of the Calypsonians come from East Port of Spain. I have lived with them. For that matter, at one time, in 1969, I had formed the Victory Calypso tent with Blakey as the leader.
Coming up Park Street, Tokyo, coming down beating very slow.
It was the only tent that had 2 shows a night and sold out every night. Because of this, I felt that I was entrenched in East Dry River. And as I told Mr. Robinson, I don't know how Woodbrook is going to vote, but I feel sure that in East Port of Spain, once I can take away half the PNM votes, I'm going to win the election. And so said, so done. My constituency was the first to be announced in that election, and we were victorious.
I, Selby Oswald Wilson, having been elected a member of Parliament,
do swear by Almighty God that I will bear true faith and allegiance to Trinidad and Tobago,
will uphold the Constitution and the law, and will conscientiously and impartially discharge the responsibilities of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, upon which I am about to enter.
When we won 33-3, people were jockeying for positions. I remember at Hilton, Mr. Robinson asked me, what position you want? I told him, I said, Chief, Port of Spain South has been represented by a Prime Minister for 29 years. After that, Port of Spain South was then represented by a Chinese businessman who was a minister in cabinet and therefore had no time for the people. I said, I don't want to be a minister. I want to be able to serve the people of Port of Spain South, particularly East Port of Spain South, an area which has been supporting the PNM for donkey years, and they've got Kobo Jawbone. I don't know if you understand what Kobo Jawbone. Kobo have no jawbone. As a consequence, I became an avid backbencher who kept our cabinet on its toes.
Being a backbencher, he was very vocal, he was very active, and he was very supportive of the chair. And I was very grateful to him for that, because he learned the standing orders inside out, and he was always able to assist me as Speaker in guiding the business of the House.
Guerra proved himself to be a vibrant member of Parliament.
I think in those days, although we didn't have much, because we were like 33 when we came in, but the then opposition of Manning, Marshall and Murrell, those three persons, I would say their contributions would have been equivalent to maybe about 15 persons, because they were really strong, they were knowledgeable, and so that we really had to research our stuff in order to match them. And as a young politician then, we would have learned from the likes of Teddy Guerra.
As far as I remember, he was an active participant in the House. He was not one who came to Parliament and sat down and said nothing.
His conduct in the House won him admiration and respect.
Coming into Parliament, when you hear people talk about raising things or making an objection based on standing orders, so and so, or what we had to do was to take a cue from the legal people, because they will be the ones making the challenges. Wherever the standing orders were silent, we would go to Mays for guidance. And not only Mays as the Bible. As far as we were concerned, if you really didn't want to take time to look up where this thing was, you touch base with Teddy and them, and they will guide you as to say, well, okay, go to Mays and do so and so, whatever it is. But if you were taking a shortcut and you wanted to answer right away, well, Teddy was like Mays.
When I was the Speaker in the Parliament, he served as an elected representative. Dr. Anselm St. George, the late Dr. Anselm St. George, was the Deputy Speaker. And there were occasions when neither of us were available to preside over the sittings. And the elected members would choose Teddy Guerra to preside. So there were many occasions when he sat in the Speaker's chair to preside over the sittings of the House.
At that time, the House was debating the Tesoro scandal. And it had gone on for about 3 or 4 weeks. And when I went to the Parliament, I went to the leader of government business, who was Joe Tony at the time. And I asked him, I said, Joe, are we finishing this debate today? He said, no. The boss says that he wants some lawyers to talk. I said, are you a lawyer? You talk. I said, why can't we finish? He said, no, you want to put the nail further in the coffin. I said, anyhow, Joe, that's all I go on, because I will be serving no useful purpose here. And I left and came home. While I was at home, my secretary called me and told me that Abu Bakr had taken over Parliament. You know what, I feel hurt about that, because Abu Bakr grew up on Richmond Road together with me.
Guerra not only played an active role to restore law and order after the attempted coup, but made a mark that still shines today.
Following the 1990 attempted coup, everyone remembers the total mess and all the damage that was done to the Parliament chamber and the Red House. And Teddy Guerra was one of those, as so many others. He was totally devastated. And as a member of the House Committee, and as a lawyer, he understood the nature of the violent assault upon the democracy of our country. And he was moved to suggest that we construct an eternal flame on the compound of the Red House to symbolize the living democracy under which we live. We accepted that suggestion, and in our report to the Parliament in preparation for the rededication ceremony, and it was a very touching ceremony, we included that recommendation, which happily was accepted by the Parliament.
In 1991, Theodore Guerra left active politics.
My exit from politics was not well taken by people who support the Spain. I did what I had to do, and my heart still bleeds for the people of Sealots, John, Stricklands, and the people of Laventille. I was hoping that I would have been given service to change the face of Laventille and East Narrator.
Thank you.